Welcome to the Alice Lombardi Show, a podcast to help women discover and rediscover their confidence and style. I'm Alice Lombardi, and I am so glad you hit play on today's episode. This week on the show, I am speaking with Jannie. She is in her late 60s and enjoying her retirement in Connecticut with lots of extra closet space in her home. As a longtime Outfit Formulas member, Jannie wants to be intentional with what she's adding to her wardrobe. And we chat about her guilty feelings she has when adding to a wardrobe that is already totally functional. We also talk about how she keeps her wardrobe in check on a seasonal basis and the items she recently added to her wardrobe that is outside of her comfort zone. Jannie's wisdom and self-awareness made for a fascinating conversation, and I cannot wait for you to get to hear from her. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, please take a moment to do it now. I've got an incredible lineup of episodes for you in the coming weeks, and I don't want you to miss a thing. And if you enjoyed listening to the show, I would be so grateful if you'd take a moment to rate it and leave a review. I know it seems like a silly thing, but your rating and review really do help, especially for new shows like this one. We're going to chat with Jannie shortly, but first, will you join me and my producer, Lauren, for a coffee chat? Well, thank you for joining me as usual for our coffee chat, Lauren. I'm excited to see what you have on deck for me today.
I know. I'm so excited to talk about this. This is something I've been thinking about for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months now. And I thought, I know exactly who I need to talk to about this. I've got my own personal style guru here. So I'm bringing this to you, and I'm also bringing it to the masses because I feel like this is something that I feel like it's a new trend I'm noticing that is also really accessible. So, and this is going to sound so random, but I want to talk about socks.
Okay.
All right. We're going there. We are going there. So I noticed online, probably on TikTok a couple months ago, that all the younger kids are wearing crew socks now. Like the ankle sock, the no-show sock seems to be not a thing for the younger kids. And it's like the tall crew socks that I feel like we kind of joked about as being like the dad sock is what they're often wearing. And they kind of, sometimes they'll scrunch them down a little bit, but not too much. They still are definitely keeping the height. So I thought, okay, I don't want to look dated. So I bought like a 6-pack of plain, boring white, crew socks at Walmart. And I'm like, hey, for $10, I'll try the trend and see how I feel. And so I've kind of been experimenting with it. And then I saw another TikTok last week where there were 2 girls in the gym, and one of them was asking the other one, hey, like, guess how old do you think I am? Guess how old I am. And the girl who was guessing said, well, I looked at you, and initially I was going to say that you were in your 20s, but then I looked down and I noticed you're wearing ankle socks. So I think you're a millennial. You're probably in your 30s. And I kind of went, uh-oh, like, are ankle socks the dead giveaway now of being a certain age? So I would love to hear your take on this. Is this something you're seeing? Like, please help a millennial out is what I'm really getting at.
No, this is fascinating. This is so good. Honestly, I see a little bit of everything too. And at the gym, I have noticed the same trends. It seems like Gen Z is opting for those kind of scrunched down higher socks with their athletic shoes. And then anyone that's kind of millennial and above is mostly wearing the no-show or the ankle socks. I personally do no-show socks. I will say, though, Ava is also wearing ankle socks. She's Gen Z. And when I was at ASU last fall for Parents Weekend, I saw a lot of girls wearing kind of like these sheer ankle socks with their loafers and skirts, which was a thing. So I have been noticing socks more and more and just trying to kind of pay attention. But there does seem to be a wide variety of styles going on right now. And I'm definitely seeing this. I'm going to start paying really close attention at the gym going forward, because that's like the best place, because you're going to see, especially with all the kids coming home from college right now, it's going to be full of them. And I'm going to start making some observations in this department. And for the record, I probably won't be giving out my no-show socks, but hey, I'm okay with looking like a Gen Xer.
Right? I love where you landed on that, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, if this is kind of a little bit of an everything goes kind of era, maybe we all just start noticing. Let's just start paying attention. What are we seeing out there? How are we seeing them styled with what types of outfits? And maybe just, if you see something and you go, I could try that. I could mimic that. I could, get out of my comfort zone and try something new. I think that's kind of a great way for us to adopt trends. I think, this feels, and like I was saying, like it was $10 for a pack of socks. It felt like an accessible trend that was easy for me to test out, right? So it wasn't like I didn't have to go and spend hundreds of dollars on a new whatever to be, hip and cool and with it and all the things that I'm usually not. So I love that it felt like an accessible trend. I know that's something that we talk about a fair bit in our community of kind of how do we cycle down the trends from what you're seeing on the runway, that are really more kind of artistic and dramatic, and then diluting them down to more realistic looks that everyday women can wear. I've seen actually some interesting thoughts about the life cycle of trends online. And I was just, of course, working with you, doing what we do. I was really fascinated by this. So I would love to hear your take on this. What I am kind of seeing online is a trend cycle generally lasts 6 to 9 years, which, first of all, that length blew me away. I was really surprised to hear that it was that long. But the flow, the kind of flow of a trend is year one for trendsetters. So items are really going to be difficult to find. And they're often only available at higher price points. So I'm guessing probably more maybe designer, maybe more very exclusive kind of looks. Year 2 and 3 are when trends hit the early adopters. So these items are becoming a little more accessible and prices are starting to come down slightly. And I think if you have that friend who's always kind of in the know in terms of style and fashion and is, the early adopter in your friend group and wearing trends before the rest of your friend group, that is probably, that girlfriend is probably in that year 2 to 3 early adopter phase. Year 4 to 5 is what they call mass market. So at this point, items are at all the retailers. They are at all the price points. So this is the point at which you see it in everywhere from Walmart to Nordstrom. It's at all the retailers, whatever it is, the print, the pattern, the color, the style, the silhouette, the texture, anywhere you go, and you're going to find a price point for every budget because all of the retailers at this point are trying to offer their version and their take on the trend. Year 6 and 7 is called the decline stage. So items are now starting to hit the clearance rack and they're kind of on the way out. So are you still seeing them? Are you still able to buy them? Yes. But are they on the up and up? No, they're definitely on the decline. And then year 8 and 9 is when trends are getting tired and obsolete and wearing these items can start to look dated. So from your experience, does this life cycle sound accurate to you? What is your take on this trend life cycle outline?
Yes, totally. I'm thinking in particular about skinny jeans, which I know is a very hot topic right now. And I would say that they tended to stay on that timeline a little bit longer and are probably, I want to say they're kind of in a decline stage right now, but I don't know that they're going to go totally into the tired and obsolete stage. So I would say that there is something in here where something does recycle back up into this, like when things aren't having a moment per se, and then they just kind of go back into this cycle again. And when that happens, I feel like they cycle through it a lot more quickly, like tassel necklaces. And we had like tassels on everything there for a while. I don't know that it was the full 8 to 9 year cycle, but I do feel like those things kind of like came back up into the cycle again. But yeah, it totally makes sense.
That's interesting. Okay. And then in terms of your own personal style, and now keeping in mind you do work in fashion and style, I'm curious what phase or year would you plot yourself according to that trend life cycle?
Yeah, I'm definitely an early adopter. I would say that I'm usually a year 2 to 3. And I like to wear a trend a little bit even before I put it on a trend list for outfit formulas, because number one, I want to make sure it feels wearable in everyday life. And I don't want to jump the gun, especially if it's one of those one and done trends. One thing that this does not account for is those things that seem to come in for like a season and then they look super dated, or they were just like the market got completely saturated with this thing. And then it just like goes away and you look really, really outdated wearing it if you do. So I try to be a little bit more careful about what trends I put on the shopping list for that reason. And in terms of outfit formulas, we're generally in the mass market category for a few reasons, but I want to make sure the trend is easily accessible for everyone. I know that in particular, like in the Midwest, trends seem to come a little bit later than they do on the coasts or even than they do. I'm in Dallas, so we tend to get trends a little bit earlier. So I want to make sure that everybody has access to shop those items, even if, they can do it all online if they want to, obviously, but I don't want them to feel like they're so completely ahead of things that it's not going to be comfortable in their region as well. So I want things to be easily accessible. I want them to be affordable, of course, and I want our ladies to feel comfortable wearing them too.
Okay, so I had guesses in my mind of where you would land and where the Outfit Formulas program lands, and bang on. Like that is exactly what I was thinking too. So I think that's really cool, and I totally agree with you in terms of Outfit Formulas. Like the whole point is to make it easy for women to get dressed, and that's for all women, regardless of where they live. And the only way for us to do that and to provide that resource for them is to make sure that things we're recommending are things that are easily available and affordable. So I love that we were aligned, that we mind melded on that one. That was cool. So out of curiosity, knowing that what they had said, that year 8 to 9 is kind of the decline, not the decline, the tired and obsolete. So I actually went back and I searched some trends from 8 and 9 years ago, and I want to ask your take on a few of these. So are these truly tired? Look at her. If you're not watching this on YouTube, she's rubbing her hands together. She's so excited. So I'm going to throw a couple of trends at you and you can let us know, are they truly like tired, obsolete, out, or would you or do you still wear any of these items? You ready?
Cool. Yes.
She's ready. So number 1, according to, 2016 trends, off the shoulder tops.
Off the shoulder. Okay. So off the shoulder, I would say is a classic style. Cold shoulder though is different. That one is out, and that one would look outdated if you're still wearing cold shoulder. I don't want to make anybody mad at me. I know. If you still love them, wear them. It's fine.
I think you're right. I joined Outfit Formulas winter 2016, which is 8-9 years ago at this point. We're getting there, and cold shoulder tops were on the guides back then, and everyone was styling them, and they are not on the guides anymore. So number 2, velvet. What do we think about velvet?
Oh, velvet. Yeah, it's seasonally still very much in. It's one of those classics that I feel has been around probably, I'm sure, since the 1800s. And I don't see that going anywhere. I think that it has its moments where it has been more in vogue, but I do see velvet every single winter at retailers. So I don't think you would look dated or out of style wearing velvet.
That's fair. Yeah, and I agree with you about the seasonality of it. Some things are just more winter looks, or summer looks, or vice versa, that kind of thing. Slip dresses. How do we feel about slip dresses these days?
Yeah, I think slip dresses are back in. I've been seeing them quite a bit in the past year or two. They've had a resurgence. A lot of those early 2010s styles are back in right now. So yeah.
Love that one. Jumpsuits.
Yep, definitely still in, along with rompers. Every spring and summer, I see all of the retailers bringing them back. So
yeah, rompers are so great for summer. So what about ripped denim?
Oh, ripped denim? Yeah, I think it's on its way out. Definitely. I see it less and less at retailers. I've been doing a lot of denim shopping lately, a lot of denim, just trend research, because I feel like this is such a hot topic, which I do want to dive into with you. I want to do a deep dive podcast on this, honestly. Really just kind of about that whole shift that we're seeing in the denim space, because I think a lot of it has to do with women finding a style that works for them and then feeling like, I've got to go out and find something new that works for me. And I know this one style works for me. And now I'm like, I don't want to do this thing, because denim shopping is so incredibly difficult. But yes, I would say ripped denim is on its way out, if not already officially out.
I agree with that one. I feel like I'm seeing it less and less. I know I myself purchased some just like it felt weird to buy regular jeans that are not torn open in any way. I'm excited to dive into a future episode about denim with you. If you're listening to today's episode and you have questions about denim, maybe send us an email, shoot us an email at podcast@AlisonLabattis.com. We would love to hear your questions. What do you need to know? What are your pressing concerns about your denim? What are you struggling with? And maybe those are things we can double click on when we get into that episode together. So along with ripped denim, another question for, is this still trending or is this out, is frayed denim.
I still see frayed hems on a lot of jeans. I wouldn't say like they're not as distressed as they used to be by any stretch, but just kind of like a raw hem edge. I would say like that distressed look all over though is going out, but frayed hems are still around.
Okay. Sheer panel leggings and swimsuits. I remember you had a swimsuit, again, probably back in like 2016, 2017, the black one that had those sheer panels. That was stunning. But is it out now? Can you wear it? Would you still wear it?
I do not still wear it. I think I still have it, but I don't still wear it. And I'm recalling this trend now vividly. I had a lot of those sheer panel leggings too that had like the little cutouts on the side kind of. I liked that trend, but yeah, it's definitely out.
That's right. Just wait it out. And the last one is bell sleeves. What are we thinking about bell sleeves?
Oh, I would say bell sleeves also out if we're talking about the full length sleeve with kind of the bell puff on them. Puffy sleeves are still in, embellishments, ruffles, all of that stuff kind of on the shorter sleeve. Tops, those are in. I've seen a lot of that this spring and summer, but the bell sleeves are out.
All right, folks, there you have it from the expert. Allison, thank you for the style school lesson. I appreciate it. I know our listeners are going to appreciate it as well. If you are listening to this episode on YouTube, drop in the comments, what year of the trend cycle would you plot yourself? And if there's a topic that you would like to hear Allison and I chat about on a future episode of Coffee Chat, whether that's anything in general or specifically about denim, because apparently we're going to talk about that in the future, feel free to email us at podcast@AlisonLabattis.com. We would love to hear from you. Are you ready to dive into your episode with Jannie?
Yes, I am super excited for this one. And now here's my interview with Jannie. Hello, Jannie. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you agreed to talk to me today a little bit more about some of your style goals and your struggles. But first off, would you mind just giving a really quick intro to our listeners and telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you for coming on, Allison. I am Jannie. I am a 68. I can't remember. I'm a 68-year-old, 4 years retired from school librarianship. And I live in Connecticut with my husband in our empty house. So I have plenty of room for my clothes. And we have 4 kids between us, and they're scattered around hither and yon.
Nice. That extra closet space certainly comes in handy. I'm experiencing that myself with our recent empty nester status. I'm starting to take over.
Oh, it's great.
It is. Yes. So I have to tell you that I am consistently inspired as one of our long-term Alpha Formulas members. I love seeing the way that you take the formulas and you just completely make them your own. So I'd really just enjoyed preparing for today's episode and looking through all of your photos and seeing all of the different ways that you make the outfits come to life. I think as the creator, that is one of the things that I just get the most joy from, is really seeing the interpretations that everyone puts on the outfits. And I just really feel like you consistently knock it out of the park every single time.
That's very kind. It's not all the time, but I try very hard.
You do very good. All right. So I would love to talk to you a little bit more about your goals and your vision for your wardrobe. We'll get into this a little bit more later, but you do have a pretty extensive wardrobe, which is great. And you make really good use of it. But if you could wave a magic wand and fix all of your struggles, imagine that, walking into the closet with a magic wand. What would that look like for you?
Wow. Well, first of all, I'd probably wave the wand and get a beautiful big closet, because our house has small closets and I use one of the closets just for the formula at that time. So storage is still a bit of an issue, but I am not complaining. The piece that I wasn't entirely honest with you about was that I haven't gotten rid of certain clothes that really aren't flattering me, but I can't let them go.
You have that emotional attachment to them, right?
I don't know what it is. For example, I have a couple of these black and white synthetic blouses that black and white is not, as I've said many times, it's not my best look, but when you have a serious occasion, you want to have them in your wardrobe. So every time I need one of them, I put them on, but I think I should keep looking. There's probably one I'll actually like instead of wearing these that I don't like. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. So do you feel like you're kind of keeping these just in case you don't find that heck yes item, yet also at the same time knowing that you're probably not going to wear them again?
That's interesting you put it that way, because I would never settle for jeans that were not ones that I felt flattered me. I would just keep going. But with these tops that I guess I only wear a couple times a year, I say, oh, well, they're not a heck yes. But when you're at a memorial service, you don't really need to look your best. So maybe that's not a good example.
So these are just pieces you're holding on to for those once in a while occasions, yet don't quite feel like they fit into your regular routine with pieces that you keep in your regular rotation, right?
Right. So I have kind of an alternate area where there are things like if we're not featuring chambray shirts, of which I have I have 4, maybe 5. They're always close at hand in my regular bedroom because, like you said, I might mix things up and just throw them on as my topper. So it's kind of like the second tier closet.
The overflow.
Maybe, yes.
So I found it interesting talking a little bit about, you said you have 4 or 5 chambray shirts in your closet. And one of the things that you shared with me in your application was that you're kind of feeling this this push and pull between not wanting to buy more clothes, yet also being tempted by seeing the new things on the shopping lists as they come through. So tell me a little bit more about what that's all about.
Yeah, I've been giving that a lot of thought. I think that ties back in. I didn't realize it initially, but I think that ties back in with the things that I am not loving. That if I take these items, I think there's probably 12 in total, more or less. It's not a garbage bag. It's just a few things. If I get rid of them, that will free me to buy things if I feel they fill a gap. I don't want to be frivolous. Like I love my new cream blazer. But that's all I need is one blazer like that. I'm not going to have any others. That makes sense.
It does. So not buying the multiples of those key pieces. And so you said that you get rid of around 12 items at a time. Is this something that you're doing on a regular basis, or when's the last time you kind of did like that full-blown closet clean out?
Well, I never do a full blown because I always go along season by season and pull a few things out. That's always happened my whole life. That's why I never had crazy closets. But I think those few pieces are holding me back from saying, okay, I can go out and buy those multicolored sandals, because multicolored sandals will be great with plain pants and a colored tee. So in my head, it says, yeah, that one's a good one. That makes sense.
I think you have good instincts in that regard for sure, that you're really just kind of thinking through the purchases and the ways that you're going to intentionally use them. And I love that you shared that tip that you do get rid of things seasonally. I feel like that makes really just maintaining your closet so much easier, as if you're being very intentional about taking the things out that you didn't maybe wear the season before. And it's not as big of an overwhelming process to really just kind of dig everything out of the closet and do the full process that time. So what would you say is currently working for you for your clothes and style?
A lot of things are working, Allison. I'm wearing my jumpsuit today. And I was one of you can't really tell from the
under your denim jacket. I love that.
But that was one of those things where I saw it in the store, and I've always been vocal about I'm not a jumpsuit person. And then I said, this looks interesting. And I tried it on, and it's having a few pieces like that are out of my normal look that really bring versatility to my wardrobe and really, really make me happy.
Would you say the jumpsuit was something out of your comfort zone?
Oh, yes. Yes. I had to post immediately to the group knowing that all these people that knew me would be going, no way.
I love that our community knows you so well that they know like this is a big step out of the comfort zone to wear the jumpsuit. So again, like that is such a joy to see happening and see that, that women are willing to try new things. And I think that that's part of the process is really in that experimentation to figure out, does this work for me or does it not? And sometimes when we see the outfits on the page or we see a new piece, I remember when, white jeans first came around in outfit formulas and there were so many women resistant to trying them. And then just watching that process unfold over the years as more and more women did try them and said, oh my gosh, like this piece actually does work for me. It is very versatile and I'm able to get a lot of use out of it. And it's very flattering. And it's cool to see that happening with the jumpsuit too, that it is a one and done piece. It's just like a dress. Yes, it does make certain things harder, like using the bathroom, but it's such a versatile piece to have in your wardrobe. And it's one of those things too that I feel is very classic and it's going to stick around for a while. So if you made an investment in that, you'll be able to wear it for years to come. So in reviewing your notes, you listed that your main challenge is these days, it is not buying more clothes. You have a fabulous closet, but each season, the new items always look so cute. So let's dive a little bit more into that. You also mentioned that you wouldn't call this a roadblock, but you do think that a lot of the seasoned members of Outfit Formulas have been mentioning that they're leaving because they don't need any more clothes and they think they've gotten what they need from the program. So let's talk first about this again, going back to the shopping thing. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on with that?
Trying to get to the heart of it. I know that in the last few years, I've bought a lot of things, but I've been very happy with them. So I would say this is kind of goes back to your last comment. It's getting the basics. It's having that beautiful plaid blazer. I hardly ever wear it, maybe 3 times a year, but every time I wear it, I feel like $1 million. It's so classic. It was worth the money. Same with my cream blazer, which was a very affordable piece. So having all those pieces is really important. So since I started really paying attention to what I thought was wonderful for me, then I ended up having such a great closet that it was getting hard to want to buy anything new. Tying that back in with the prior group, maybe they felt the temptation was too great to keep buying, and that was their way. It wasn't that they didn't enjoy the program. I'm just guessing maybe they felt if I cut my ties, I won't be tempted.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up. This is actually something that I don't think I've ever talked about publicly before, that we do have a natural graduation from the program. I feel like every few years, Outfit Formulas really best serve women that are kind of starting out and trying to get their basics in place and getting that beginning stages of building the functional wardrobe and identifying how their lifestyle translates into the clothes that are going to work best for their days. So they discover their own unique personal style. They try the new things and then they learn how to style the items together. And after a while, it does kind of make sense when you don't need to constantly be stocking your closet, or maybe you've gotten to a point where you're like, I get this whole Outfit Formulas concept so well. I have all of these pieces in my closet that I'm able to substitute into the formulas to make them my own. So a lot of members do stick around for our award-winning community, which is like the best part of the program. We talked about a little bit here, but they also like those seasonal trend updates too. So we kind of have some members that get to that point where they're like, I'm great on my closet staples. I'm only replacing things as needed when they wear out or for whatever reason. And I'm adding in a few of these new seasonal trend updates and they stick around for that. But then we do have others that feel like they've got a good handle on things now and they have enough in their closets. And maybe it's time to just fly solo for a little bit. So they sometimes return after a few years, which we always welcome them back with open arms. They say, hey, I got stuck in a rut again, or I really just appreciated knowing what to wear every day. Like I miss having that guidance, or they just feel like they've gotten a little bit off track. I, again, always go back to the meal planning analogy with this because a lot of us follow meal planning programs or meal delivery services. And then we go out on our own for a little while. And we're like, I kind of learned what I needed to, or I've got a good system in place now. So I'm not going to do that. And then maybe a year or so later, we're in a different phase of life and say, I'm coming back to it again. So obviously we do hate to see people go, but I also love a little bit what this represents is feeling empowered and being able to make those choices and having that functional wardrobe and having their own style skills to rely on. So it's kind of a beautiful thing at the same time and a bit of a proud big sister moment for me. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And there's a lot to unpack around that, I think. And there are a lot of different reasons for that graduation to happen, but it's definitely something that we see and something that we love too.
Well, you notice how people have said it's the nicest group in social media. And I think that's what's made this unique is all these people are so kind and helpful to each other. And that's why I wouldn't want to leave. I don't lose my friends.
It is the best compliment ever. And it seriously is just such a beautiful, supportive, inspiring space. And in some cases, women say, yeah, that's worth the price of admission. So I love that. But I also get the fact that some are tempted by seeing all the new pieces, and that might be a struggle for them, just the same way that we kind of curate the people that we follow on social media. If we don't want to be constantly buying the things that they're showing, it does help to have that discipline sometimes. So I also see that side of it. So lastly, you summarized your main issue as it's relatively easy for you to buy only a few new items each season. You have good self-control. So you're not one of those people, right? This is not causing any significant impact on your daily life. You do have the budget to buy items, but you feel guilty when you do so. Let's dive into that guilt a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I think there's the two parts. One is, like I said, I need to do my mini closet clean out. And then I think it's sometimes hard to reconcile feeling like I have so much abundance with people who don't. So one year I went out into the group and I said, I'm not going to spend any money. And if I do, I'm going to match that money and give it away. So I gave that money to Dress for Success, I think. I guess that's what I'm trying to reconcile is if I'm using my money in the best way. And it's nice to feel good about how I look, but it's also nice to help other people.
That's beautiful. Such a generous thing to do. So let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about your style story now, which is so fun. For listeners who are not familiar with the show format, we delve a little bit deeper into everyone's style story that's a guest on the Allison Lombardi show, because this helps us learn about some of the influences and experiences that you've had in the past, which can include things like the clothing choices and options that you may have had available to you in your childhood all the way up to adulthood, or any messages that you may have heard around style or appearance. And these stories can be shaped by our own choices as well as by the external influences that may have been imposed upon us. So, did you have a chance to review any old photos? And if you did they bring back some memories or jog anything that you can see has impacted your style either back then or even today?
Well, I didn't need the photos because they're burned into my brain. I have such vivid memories of many of the clothes I wore when I was a young person. So I gave it some thought, made some brief notes. When I was young, my father and my stepmother would take me shopping to a children's boutique, and they would find a beautiful dress for me, something I could wear to school, but something very unique. And these dresses were made out of beautiful fabrics with beautiful embellishments. And so I think that, which happened when I was probably about 8 or 9, really started me noticing clothing. From that, I think I was pretty much like the average person of my time until I got into high school. And then my 17 magazines would arrive every month and I would pore over those, particularly looking at the outfits. So my high school look was what I call eclectic, Allison. It was the 1970s and we were crossing over between people dressing in a very conservative manner and then people dressing in a very relaxed manner. So I could go from boho one day to preppy in tweeds the next day and knee socks. The next day I could be in one of my, what I called costumes. This is very unique. I don't know why or how I chose to do this, but I would dress, one of my outfits was a Pollyanna outfit. Started with a sailor dress from the Goodwill. I added a sailor hat with ribbons down the back and tights and Mary Janes. And there I was walking through my huge high school in the early 1970s in this costume. And so I thought that was quite interesting that I did these things. I had several of those. And for an introvert, I'm wondering now with the hindsight of age, if I wanted to be noticed. And since it was hard for me sometimes to talk in class, maybe I just wanted my clothing to speak. What do you think of that?
That's a very cool insight. Yeah. Wow. A lot to think through there. It seems like style has always been a really important part of the way that you express your personality. And just even kind of going back to those dresses that you were buying in the boutiques, but they were unique, right? So maybe this costuming was kind of like a continued expression. I would like to talk a little bit more about the dresses because I feel like that was kind of probably really impactful. How did you feel when you showed up at school in those beautiful, unique dresses that you were finding at this boutique?
I'm not sure I wore them to school. I said I might have, and maybe I did. I think whenever I wore them, I felt great. The rest of the time I went to school probably in regular clothes. I think a lot of times we've all looked back at our socioeconomic situation. I'd say we were kind of lower middle class. We didn't want for anything, but we weren't excessive. So I think that's why my father would buy me this beautiful dress for my birthday. I don't know. My friends all said that I cared more about clothing than they did. And it was almost like, it was just interesting. They cared about other things. One of my friends was a great musician, and another friend, she designed clothing, but she not really for herself to wear. She just loved tailoring. So I guess that was one of the pieces of Janny.
I want to talk a little bit more about the Pollyanna costume. And I first off, I love that you were experimenting so boldly as a teenager, that you were in this transition phase of, trying out the preppy stuff that was more conservative and traditional. And then, experimenting in the boho space and also doing this really bold thing as an introvert of showing up in the costumes. Did you have any type of performance background, or where do you feel like this sort of came into the picture?
It probably just came because I was a great reader. I had actually read the original Pollyanna and I'd seen the movie, and I always loved sailor dresses. In fact, when my daughter was young, I went through a phase for probably 3 years where we would pose together, and I had a sailor dress from Laura Ashley, and then she would have a different one as she would grow up. And so maybe I just love sailor dresses. I actually had one in 6th grade. I forgot about that. My mother bought it for me at the department store, and it didn't look like the clothes that the other girls wore. So I guess I just knew what I liked.
Yes, I love that. So Pollyanna was one of your style role models, I would say. Did you have any other style role models or mentors growing up?
Definitely. Pollyanna was probably just based on the movies and times when I grew up. I loved Grace Kelly. I loved, as everyone loved, how classic she was. She just kept it so simple. And of course, she was a very beautiful woman. And then later, when Princess Di hit, kind of took the world by storm, if you unpack some of her outfits, she was very eclectic. And sometimes her outfits were very costumey. And so she was someone I really had fun watching before we had the internet. I could only catch her outfits by magazines when they do a feature on her.
I've seen people talking about Princess Di's style more and more. I think that the teenagers are dressing like her with the bike shorts and the oversized sweatshirts and the taller socks that they're pushing down with their sneakers. And there's like this new Princess Di in the Hamptons uniform that the teens are into right now. So she's still an influence to this day and impacting women's style. So I love that. Do you feel like you were able to shop as much as you wanted to when you were growing up?
Yes. I always felt that I had a lot of clothes, and we sewed. So that allowed me, that's where I got my little peasant tops. I'd make these little boho tops, and they were easy to sew. And I can still remember the way the mattress would smell when I would wash it, because mattress has a unique smell.
So you do feel like you were able to really just kind of adequately explore style in your teen years. And how do you feel that that's kind of carried through to where you are today?
But it definitely has been influential, because if I cared as much as I did then at age, say, 16, a lot of what I did then, I still do. I would choose my outfits for the week, and I would hang them in my closet with all the pieces together, and I had everything thought out. And that's often what I do now. And many of the members of our group do that. So I would say that's carried over. And in those days, I had a lot of mixing and matching. I think I lost that until I found Get Your Pretty On, because by the time I found Get Your Pretty On, most of my outfits were truly, and you have to be of a certain age to understand the word outfit. One would be a burgundy skirt and top, and it created an outfit, and you didn't wear those pieces with a lot of other things. And so my wardrobe was a lot less functional, I think, when I discovered the program in my later years.
Yeah. So you've discovered that beauty of mixing and matching, and that everything in your closet can serve more than one purpose and be paired up in more than one way. I think that's, yes, I love that. I would also say that I think that your ability to kind of step out of your comfort zone and try things like the jumpsuit or some of the trends that are on the list probably really go back to those days when you were willingly experimenting. And I think there's a certain beauty in not caring what other people think of us, honestly, and being able to express ourselves through our clothing and through our personalities. And one of the things that you had shared on your application was that being that you are in New England, you feel like it's more of a regional thing around shopping. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and what you shared around that?
Well, I think it's changed. I didn't come from New England originally. I grew up in Seattle, but I came to New England in the 80s, and I think I was meeting lots of women older than myself at the time, but who really just had sort of that simple preppy look, the simple skirts, the pullover sweaters. And I'm almost thinking they thought there were more important things to do than worry about clothing. So they had their basic clothing, and they spent their time probably doing good works or doing wonderful things to help people. But on the other hand, living in New England is more freeing than living in a more cosmopolitan city. I think that would create a lot of pressure if you felt you always had to be cutting edge. So this is a nice place for me. I can do what I do, and my friends, they all say that I care more than they do. But again, like when I was little, it's just part of me. It doesn't bother anybody.
I love that. So the last question I want to ask you in your style story, is there anything that 10-year-old Jany needs to hear from you today that might help calm your fears or address any of your concerns around style?
Wow, 10-year-old Jannie. She was a mess, Allison.
You're going to go back and help her.
I really did go through the ugly duckling phase, and I had pimples before anybody else had them, and I had stringy hair, and I had the need for braces, which thank goodness I was able to get. And my mother was very pretty, and she was a petite brunette with blue eyes and always looked great. And I would be going, "Mommy, I'm just never going to look good." And she'd say, "Yes, you are. You're the ugly duckling." So she wasn't saying like, "You're beautiful." And I don't mean to make it sound like she was mean, but she said, "You remember how that story ended up, and I know you're going to end up just like that." And that got me through some hard times as I had to really go through a phase before I ended up feeling good about how I look.
She gave you that perspective. We all go through those gawky years, right?
Well, yes. And of course, our mothers or our role models, our friends, those people tell us, and it's still hard to believe it when you're going through it.
So hard. Yes, that's beautiful. Well, I appreciate all the vulnerability in sharing that with me. And I would like to shift gears a little bit to talk about some possible actions that you could take going forward. So one of the things that I wanted to explore a little bit was that you said you do feel some guilt around spending money. but you also have the budget to do so. So let's talk a little bit about where that might be coming from. Do you have any messages that you feel replay for you, like people who spend money on their clothes or appearance are blank?
No, I don't know why I feel that way, because I don't think I've ever been criticized for it. My husband knows that it brings me joy, so he's very indulgent. He just kind of smiles and says, "Oh, you got something new in the mail. That's fun." I don't know. Maybe it's just me not giving myself permission. But on the other hand, Allison, I do look. I was at the mall the other day and I went from store to store and I left and I said, there was nothing there that was a heck yes. So I felt wonderful leaving the mall because I didn't compromise.
I love that. I feel like you are figuring this out and kind of untangling it on your own a bit. And you are using that discernment of figuring out, do I need these things? Is this something that's going to fill a gap in my wardrobe? And it's really difficult with shopping because we do have sort of these conflicting ideas around it. And I can relate to how you're feeling too when you get into this place where, okay, my wardrobe is completely functional now. So that does make it easier for me personally to know if something is a heck yes, because I really, really have to love it in order to buy it. But I also give myself permission, even if I don't technically need it, if I love it, then that's okay for me to bring it home. And I know that it's not going to be wasted money. It's going to be something that brings me joy. And also viewing that through the lens of the fact that you do inspire others. You're inspiring your friend group, the people around you that see how you're showing up in the world, who are commenting on the fact that you care more about style than they do, but also I'm sure that you do provide them with inspiration in that space. And the thousands of women that you inspire through the Outfit Formulas community too is huge. And we love seeing how you show up in that space. And maybe just simply reframing that a little bit to the people that around you that you are inspiring through the things that you're doing and the pieces that you're showing them and the ways that you're pairing things up could help you to give yourself that permission to know that it's okay to continue doing this because you are doing good in the world, whether you realize it or not. It may feel like it's very self-serving, but you're not doing it from it's not that way. I'm sure that the women in our group would agree that you do provide them with so much more and so much benefit in that. So thank you for doing that.
Well, that's nice to hear. I do find that when my neighbor will say, "How do you put that together?" And I always say, "It's very easy. It's a formula. I will come help you. We will go through your closet." And so I think you've modeled kind of an ethos here that we're not competing against each other. We're working with each other and we celebrate each other and we go out into the world and we don't say, "Oh, well, thank you. I have a little secret. I'm not going to tell you my secret." I tell people, I go, "I have a stylist." And they go, "You do?" And I go, "Well, she has thousands of people, but it's not a secret."
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it's also important for you to know that you are worthy of feeling good and confident in your clothes. So anything that you add to your wardrobe that helps you to do that is totally worth it. It's okay to refresh the items that don't light you up anymore, honestly, and to let go of those pieces if they're not lighting you up anymore and just see how that feels. If there's a lightness around releasing those items, if you do find yourself in a place where something that you didn't love that wasn't lighting you up needs to be replaced, then that again you have permission to do that, to have the pieces that do make you feel good, even if you're only wearing them a few times a year. It's okay to refresh those items too. And you can always donate them to charity or to women's shelters so that you feel better about getting rid of those pieces. But I do think that that's an important part of this as well, is to really just kind of get rid of the things that aren't those heck yes items that aren't making you feel like the best version of yourself, because you do have you value the way that you show up in the world so much. And I think that is important for you to honor. And I love that you do that.
Thank you, Allison.
So there is no prize for settling for mediocre or for playing small. And I love that you've shown us that. And your style story was just so beautiful and just helps to weave together that tapestry of the way that you show up in the world today. And, sometimes our peers don't get us, and that's okay. We are still worthy of doing those things that delight us, right?
They bring me joy. My clothes, I always tell people I come home from vacation and I hug my closet because I missed it.
I love that. It's hard just to pack those few things. You're like, but I love them all. I want to take them all on vacation with me. Well, did you have any other questions for me today?
No, this has just been really eye-opening and fun.
Yes, I loved this. It's such a good conversation, Jannie. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for inspiring so many other women in the Output Formulas community. I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for creating the community.
I would love to hear your thoughts about today's conversation. Did you see yourself in any part of Jannie's story? Are you an introvert that lets your clothes speak for you? Do you experience guilty feelings when you add items to your wardrobe? Let's open a dialogue and connect. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube as Allison Lombatis, and I'd love to hear from you. If you share thoughts about your own style story on social media, please tag me. I would love to see it and cheer you on. Remember, you are worthy, style is a skill anyone can learn, and closet contentment is possible. I believe in you. Thanks for tuning in.